our largest state, northernmost state, and although other states may take exception, one of the most beautiful states. It is also a hunter's and fisherman's dreamland. Here, game and fish abound. Trophy game. Alaska is also known as the land of the midnight sun. May, when the daylight lasts much longer, is an ideal month to hunt the Alaskan brown bear. When you think of Alaska, you imagine rugged mountains, miles of seashore, thousands of rivers, and ice on ice on ice. The mountains, wild seashore, and teeming rivers are there. Yet coastal Alaska is covered with forests, and the temperature's not at all like that vision of winds screaming across an ice field. Anchorage is the air crossroads of the world, and its Alaskan airport handles more air traffic than New York's LaGuardia. Northwest Orient has many flights to Anchorage. Gene Dimler from Harrisburg and Don Grove from Reading, Pennsylvania are on their second trip to Kodiak. They'll stay overnight in Anchorage. The town of Anchorage is modern, busy, and clean. The Sheffield House, like other buildings in Anchorage, has been rebuilt since the famous earthquake of the 60s. Mark Air hauls passengers and freight. Don and Jean book a flight to Kodiak. The flight from Anchorage to the city of Kodiak lasts about 2 hours. Kodiak Island is tucked beneath the Alaskan Peninsula on the western border of the Gulf of Alaska. The climate is much like Ireland's. Warmed by the Japanese current, Kodiak's temperature averages 40 degrees. It has mild winters and cool summers. But weather changes quickly, and strong winds sometimes buffet the island. The entire Kodiak archipelago is only 9 square miles smaller than the state of Connecticut. Kodiak Island, the largest of the island chain, is 3,600 square miles of largely untracked terrain, nameless rivers, fur seals, and brown bears.
So this is Kodiak.
The largest U.S. Coast Guard station is located on Kodiak. Jean and Dawn, in the Alaskan tradition, are greeted on landing by hunting camp personnel and escorted to a place for rest and relaxation.
Jean, are you going to be flying out tomorrow?
Yes, with Island Air.
Great, what about time? Early in the morning?
I hope.
So the weather's clear for you.
Well, I hope you get to see the feeding of the eagles first.
We'll go see that and then we'll leave and do it.
The Sheffield House in Kodiak attracts tourists, but most of its clientele is local. And to watch the cook prepare the shrimp indicates why. Fishermen from the trawlers, cannery workers, local businessmen, and tourists find good food and friendly conversations. Jean and Dawn have certainly found a good place to end their first day on Kodiak Island. Kodiak boasts one of the largest commercial seafood producing ports in the U.S. Small boats and commercial vessels ply Kodiak's waters. This trawler could be returning with a catch of salmon, Pacific halibut, cod, or crab. The trawler has caught 16 tons of Tanner crab. The crabs are unloaded from the ship's storage. Large and tasty, Tanner crabs proliferate in Alaskan waters. Mocking the same bear. Mike tells the hunters of a brown bear close to 9 feet that might be taken at the end of the hunt. As 9 feet is big, but not quite a record, everyone agrees to pursue a bigger bear.
Mainly their whole lifestyle is just they're being vegetarian. In the fall, they'll start feeding on berries and more roots. And
black-tailed deer was introduced to Kodiak in the 20s. Related to the mule deer, the blacktail thrives on the green grasses of the island and the kelp that washes up on the beaches. Gene seems to always have his camera loaded. Later that morning, each guest appears at the rifle range. Don Grove checks his Winchester 375.
Top left?
Each hunter must test his weapon to make sure that nothing has happened to it during the flight. The scopes must be tested for accuracy. Besides, the hunter profits from the confidence.
Okay.
The weapon and hunter are not to be checked on a bear. Gene Dindler tests his Winchester 458 with a Leupold sight.
Top left.
Gene's rifle is right on target. George carries a Colt 45 automatic. It's more for the feeling of security, he claims. It may not take a brown bear, he chuckles, but it might stop the guy who'll stop the bear.
Well, you know them throwing a rifle and carrying the cameras like that.
Sure, that'd be handy. That can work out fine.
Good. I've shot it before. How long is it? Alright, I'll do this time. See what's easy.
George's eye with his sidearm is as good as with his camera.
Right on
Don Grove and his guide Bill, a Kodiak native, are heading to a small camp for their hunting area. Bob Pearson will hunt the inlet's upper end. Gene will stay at the main lodge. Gene, Bob, and George will take the Boston Whaler out to Mike's 35-footer. They'll cruise the sound and try to spot bear from the boat. So the hunters are spread into distinct territories. Some will hunt inland, some the shoreline. Already on board is the ship's pilot, cook, and Mike's bride, Robin. Robin traded Kansas for Alaska.
Islands there, and maybe we can see some either walking the beaches or up in that brush there somewhere.
Okay.
The Russians colonized Alaska in the 18th century. Kodiak was the site of their capital during the early colonial years. Seal and otter pelts brought the Russians. Kodiak Bay was the site of tanneries during the early 19th century. The Russian fur trade depended much on Kodiak's seemingly unlimited sea otters.
Well, we're heading up inland path here up to the west shore of Kodiak Bay. Those islands up there, that's an House Island. And we're going to go among those islands and blast both sides of the bay so we see something.
A lot of ducks in the bay here, Mike.
There go the puffins and some cranes.
Mallards, old squads.
Several days of hunting, and still it's hard watching for bear. The ice from glaciers turns the head. The waterfowl is plentiful. You can get tired from hunting birds during the fall hunting season. The vegetation and shellfish attract thousands of birds. The bay hosts mallards, teal, widgeon, large eider ducks, and many others. Harbor seals are also common. In the summer, whales will visit the bay. So it's hard to remain undistracted as you're glassing for bear. Patience is required. Mike sees movement. Sows and cubs are not trophies.
You guys ready for a little lunch?
Mike explains to the men that coffee and food are in order before going ashore. That sow looked nervous. A boar might be near. The boar might be Gene's trophy.
Yeah, we left this morning, right? Go to the beach here and walk down a little ways and go up the river. Still be there. Yeah, look at the eagle down the beach there.
Yeah, I see it.
There's a fox there too.
Oh, where are they after something?
Yeah, they must be out there digging for mussels or something. I don't know what that eagle's doing though.
Wildlife experts estimate there might be 200 pairs of bald eagles in the area. This eagle shows his inhospitality. Gene loads his Winchester .458 and hopes that Mike is right and a boar is near. Brown bears are the largest carnivore in the world. The brown bear is a native to all of North America. Inland, they're known as the grizzly. On the coast, they're referred to as brown bears or the coastal brown bears. Kodiak brown bears grow larger than their cousins ashore. The fish and game of the island provide plenty of food to help growth. 2,000 bears have been counted on the island, but naturalists estimate that an additional 30% remain unseen in the interior bush. It's also estimated that only 20 to 30% of the brown bear cubs survive to adulthood. Many are killed by the larger males. Mothers with 2 cubs may have difficulty defending them. Mothers of 3 cubs have a harder time. This mother of 3 is anxious. It's not the hunters making this sow anxious because she's heading their way. A bear usually will turn away, but she's coming still closer. These cubs are 3-year-olds. Each might weigh about 800 pounds and measure 6 feet. These cubs are still under the protection of mother, and she is bringing them closer. This summer, the mother bear will rough up her 3-year-olds and they'll run away into adulthood. But this is only May, and she's strangely leading them toward the hunters. More than the bear is getting anxious, George didn't plan on being so close with his camera. Bears have poor vision, but they smell very well. Hearing is good too.
Hey Gene, look at the eagle.
The bald eagles hunt the beach. As bald eagles mate for life, the duties are naturally divided between spouses for keeping the nest. If she has eggs, she'll be near the nest, and Dad will be hunting alone. In the reverse of many animal species, the female eagle grows larger than the male.
The old one will be just building a new one, I guess.
Can you tell the difference between a male and female?
No, you really can't. It's pretty hard to.
So those are just kind of
3 days later, Gene is intrigued by the small buoys. They mark no channel. No reef or rocks are near.
A dark spot.
Rather than looking for a bear.
A guide is important when looking for brown bear. A brown bear's coat camouflages it, and so makes it difficult to distinguish him among the rock and brush. A guide must be able to recognize what's a bear and what's an outcropping of rock. He must be quick to spot any movement. And the guide must be familiar with bear so he can estimate the size of the bear and what it's likely to do.
couple of deer over there on the beach. See them?
They're right there getting ready to look over the bank.
Yeah, yeah. There's a bunch of them around this spring.
Yeah, I didn't realize you had that many deer up there.
Something out of it, Dean. Tim?
Gene and George are on their 5th day of the hunt. Mike has spotted a big bear lying in the grass. He has no doubt that the brown mass on the hillside is a big bear. Powerfully built, bears have heavy skeletons over which layers of muscles are plied. They are extremely dangerous if provoked. As they stalk the mass of brown fur, it starts to snow, and the mass becomes 2 masses. The Kodiak weather has surprised the hunters. It snows harder. The 2 brown bears become 4, a sow and 3 cubs. 3 cubs are rare, and this is the 2nd time the group has found such a large family. These bears are not the same that George encountered earlier. These cubs are 2 years old, weighing 500 pounds and being about 5.5 feet. They have another year of growing and learning before their mother dismisses them. Meanwhile, starting day 6 of the hunt, Bob Pearson and his guide are preparing for breakfast at their camp 20 miles away from the main lodge. It's a great morning. In May, the Earth's pole tilts more and more toward the sun. In spring, days grow longer in the north. This sunlight late into the night makes Alaska the land of the midnight sun. But the spring sun also rises only a few hours after it sets and makes Alaska the land of the early morning. Even at breakfast time, the sky is bright, the air is clear, and the scenery is spectacularly visible. It is the time to drink in the beauty. They have not yet found a suitable trophy, but that fact gives them the chance to discuss strategies for locating Bob's perfect bear. The fish-loving bears will be heading from their dens to the water. They agree to continue hunting near the shore. Hunting further inland would be less suitable for sighting game. Day 7 of the hunt. The red fox is a particular hunter. He'll pursue a favorite type of vole even when the area is abundant with other rodents. Eagles build their nests of sticks and vines. Always located on a cliff or in a high tree, a bald eagle's nest is its home for years. Each year, a pair of eagles will spruce up their nest with more sticks. Eventually, the tree will break or the nest will fall apart from its own weight. A nest, or eyrie, can be built to over 8 feet in diameter. Eaglets will remain in the nest for 9 weeks. This nest has a pair of eggs. George and his assistant decide they're too close. The female bald eagle was threatening that if they interfered with or got too close to her nest, she'd crush her eggs. Bear have been spotted here in the past. When the bear moves, Mike explains that it's a 5-year-old under 8 feet and not a trophy. Had the bear been spotted in the interior of Alaska, it would have been an excellent trophy. The grizzlies are considered trophies at 6.5 to 7.5 feet, not on Kodiak. Hip boots are necessary in Alaska. The sloughs are numerous. Mud and shallow waters are encountered frequently when hunting. The guide's keen eyes again detect movement. It is a sow and cubs. She was probably making her way to the beach for a meal of fish. Den elevation is important to bears. A Kodiak brown bear will find or dig its den at about 1,800 feet. On the Alaskan Peninsula, a brown bear will den at about 1,300 feet. And always, the scenery of Alaska boosts the spirits, even though the game turned out not to be suitable for trophies. On day 8 of the hunt, Gene and Mike meet Don Grove and his guide Bill. He reports that the territory must have some good-sized males. He spotted many females with cubs. Bill feels very confident about finding Don a trophy Kodiak brown bear. Kodiak brown bears do not come looking for men, so men must look for them. A major characteristic of the successful hunter is the perseverance to continue the hunt. The enjoyment of friendships during good hunting conditions must prove secondary to the silence and the loneliness of a successful quest. So the meeting is kept short. Don wants to return to his hunting. He feels so confident that a big bear is foraging near that he promises better and longer hunting stories after he returns to the camp with a trophy. Mike again picks out bear on the shore. This sow and cubs may be the same family spotted 20 miles away from here. Bears have wide hunting ranges. Everywhere the scenery is Alaskan. After dinner, in the still, bright land of the midnight sun, the sound of an outboard engine means that someone is returning to camp. Returning at this late hour can only mean that someone has hunted successfully. The hunters and guides want to be dockside. Bob Pearson and Rob show that perseverance pays off. Bob has bagged his trophy. His bear measures 8'9", not a record for size. Bob took it because he thought that its coat was magnificent. The pelt is indeed outstanding. A trophy is not always determined by its size, but also by the quality of the animal. Bob's trophy has a coat of rich color with a thickness that demands touching. While the others want to get a good look at the prize, Bob and Rob are anxious to have it treated and preserved for shipment. But the sound of another boat motor brings a surprise. Dick Pugh and his guide also return with their bear. To have two boats return with trophy bears at about the same time in the evening makes the others hopeful that their day to find a bear is approaching. Dick Pugh's second year of hunting has paid off. He returns from an adventure that, along with Bob's, will fill the evening conversation with stories of the sightings, the stalks, and the kills. The trophies are taken up to the camp where the hides are trimmed, the fat scraped off, and then the entire pelts are salted to preserve them for shipment to the taxidermists. The meat is left at the kill site. Bears are predators. The carrion eaters, even seagulls and red fox, will shun bear meat until days later after the odor has vanished. Mike and Robin are residents. Alaskan residents are allowed to take some catch for subsistence.
How far down are they, Mike? About 150 feet. What do you expect to get? Dungeness crab and hopefully some stick crab. Great. Seafood tonight. Yeah. This what Gene likes, huh? Right.
Dungeness crabs. The waters of Alaska teem with clams and shellfish. The Dungeness crabs scavenge vegetable matter on the ocean bottom.
How much of that smoked salmon we got? Is that all that came in? Or is that all in Mike?
And then be coming back.
Empty them here, Mike.
Thanks, Gene. Yeah, and we've stopped in here for about a year.
That night, the hunters retire to the lodge den. Bob is excited about his encounter. He tells of the bears he'd seen and rejected while hunting. But the suddenness of finding his trophy climaxes Bob's story. Rob can't resist treating his guest with stories of his encounters with bears. But Robin interrupts to announce that dinner is being served.
Let's go.
Moose has been baking for the meat course. Moose do not inhabit Kodiak Island. During the hunting season, many mainland hunters leave some of their moose, caribou, elk, and deer venison at the hunting camps. The lodges then freeze the meat for interesting dinners throughout the year. George gets a chuckle when he discovers that Gene doesn't care for crab. For all Gene's curiosity about these boys, the catch is not to his taste. But there is other fare. Besides crab and moose, native smoked salmon from Herman and Bill, two guides who live on a nearby island, builds a full table that satisfies everyone's appetite.
Yeah. The natives over at Village just smoke it for 2 weeks. Steady smoke. You already got a little bit of crab here. I know that. I know you ain't gonna eat this. Delicious. Carol, you did a fine job. You'll eat all this on the whole season. Crab. You want to smoke salmon? You better smoke some salmon, Mike. I smoked it myself there. Already? Yeah. Smoked salmon. Okay. This is That's what I had. Yeah, we way out here. Way out here.
The 10th day of the hunt is raw and damp. The weather's misty, but the bears don't mind, so the hunters are out on the bay. Gene wants photos of harbor scenes. But everyone is attentive when Mike spots something promising. The boat engines stop instantly. The anchor is dropped and the whaler is brought alongside. Rifles and equipment are put aboard because Mike has seen something, but nobody knows for sure what he's seen. Trusting Robin says goodbye and the party is off. Mike says that he saw something that he knows wasn't there before. He hopes it's a bear. If it is a bear, then it's worth looking at.
This is black-tailed deer over here. They don't have their antlers right now. They got rid of them in February, and they'll be starting to grow them.
While Gene looks at the Sitka white-tailed deer, Mike checks the wind and thinks about where best to land. He wants to come up on the object downwind of it. Bob, who carries the camera gear, is cautious. He decides to take a Winchester shotgun with it. Mike explains that the wind is bad for it. The hunters plan to go around the mountain to see if what Mike thought was a bear is indeed a trophy. Mike's sure it was a bear. He thinks he's sure. The stalk begins by following the shoreline around the mountain. Everyone hopes the bear will wait for them to locate him. They estimate a 4-mile detour of hiking and climbing just to see if there is a bear. Mike is almost sure.
Pass here and try and get up the bucket.
This will not be an ordinary stalk. About a mile from the landing, they begin their climb. The ground is frozen, the dampness sits on the rocks. With the snow and damp, this detour will be slippery and hazardous. The rifles have shells in their magazines, but each man is double-checked to make sure that the chamber is empty. A loaded chamber would be too risky for the climber and for his companions. The whaler shrunk. The snow gets a little deeper. Some of the party have their jackets on. Is it a bear? Will it be a trophy? Is it still there? This deer has probably never seen a man around here before. The hunters climb for 3 hours. To partake in a hunt like this, a person would have to be in good physical condition. The climb becomes a mental struggle, too. If only they could be sure that after the climb, a trophy bear would be there. With every exhausting footfall, doubt tugs them downhill. Yet with every yard of slope gained, the excitement of the hunt invigorates them.
Gene, we're getting pretty close now. We're getting up close to the top, so we're gonna have to really keep it quiet and just really pick our way through this stuff.
We're getting pretty close to him.
Finally, the crest and a reward. One look at the bear track and Gene knows that Mike has led him to a big Kodiak bear. Mike sees the bear down the hill. He explains to Gene that he'll have a clearer shot from another vantage. But they must circle about the crest and stay downwind. The hunt is now between Gene and the bear. If the bear's nose picks up a scent, if he hears any disturbance, he'll bolt. Then Gene's climb will become a tale of exhaustion and failure. The bear is 80 yards away. As Gene and Mike clearly see the bear, the animal's alert senses pick them up. He bolts. One shot. And a safety shot.
That's looking fair. Yeah. Let's take a look at it. There it is. Good looking bear. Let's go back to the second.
This bear is big. Look at the size of the head. The bear is indeed a trophy. He measures out at over 9 feet 8 inches.
Look at that yellow spot in his back.
Yeah, he's got a pretty height, doesn't he? Look at the length of that fur. Look at that.
The claws are polished and worn from walking over the rocks.
Look at that, the white there. He's getting to be pretty old. He must be 8 or 9 years old, I imagine.
Sitting sharp.
Yeah, they'll do a job on you, all right. Look at that pelt. That is really a nice pelt.
I can't believe they're that thick.
Yeah, they really it keeps them warm, doesn't it? Boy, they're big animals, aren't they?
Real big.
Well, congratulations, Gene, you did it.
Thanks a lot.
Way to
Can't believe
go.
it. Waited a long time for this.
Yeah,
boy, that's all right, Gene. That's great.
Yeah,
That's a beautiful bear.
He was just right below us there. He was just really cooperative, and Gene did a great job on him.
I can't
Gene
believe
is one happy man. His trophy is exceptional.
Took care of him pretty quick.
It's a Kodiak tradition that the guide has the honor of carrying out the bear. The head and hide will weigh in at about 135 pounds.
Shot Black said before, but there ain't nothing the size of these animals.
Yeah, great.
This the biggest thing you've ever shot, Gene? Biggest thing I ever shot. Never shot anything the other size of that. How about his head? Look at the size of that thing.
Yeah, he does have a real big head. Well, he might be close to Boone and Crockett. We'll have to measure it when we get him down there. Maybe.
Slippery going up and dangerous sliding going down. Mike, leading the pack and carrying the hide, slips. He slides 80 yards down a rocky, twisting chute. Gene is concerned. His guide might be hurt. And his guide has carried his trophy down the hill with him. Are both hides okay? Yes. Mike is fine. The pelt is unharmed. Gene will have an adventure to tell Bob about tonight, and he has the trophy to prove it. The hunt has been successful, and Gene can slip out of his heavy gear as a happy man whose dream of a Kodiak brown bear trophy has been realized. Alaska's beautiful, a land of mountains and forests, of water and wildlife that attracts hunters from all over the world. Alaskan hunters enjoy the comradeship of other hunters and guides. The mountains can be breathtakingly beautiful. On any hunt, there is pride in the weapons. Alaska is easy to reach. Anchorage is just a flight away. The game is here for the sighting, and so is the thrill of a hunt, and the sheer enjoyment of seeing a variety of animals firsthand. From Anchorage, Kodiak is just a 2-hour flight. Kodiak, an island of abundant wildlife and trophy brown bears.